Well, good morning. My name is Dave Hunsinger, and today we are going to talk about the department, category, and location database. Right now I've left everybody unmuted just because we only have a handful of people here, and we will, so you can speak up and ask questions as you go along. You can also type something into the chat if you need to. So that's down on the bottom of your sidebar, and I sometimes don't catch that right away, but I will try to keep an eye out for it. Today is Thursday, January 10th, and this is the first Keystroke Live of 2013. We will be having them every Thursday at 9 a.m. Mountain. That's 11 Eastern and 8 Pacific. Again, we're starting kind of a series on databases. The first week of February, I believe that's the 7th, we'll hear from Mike Gebb and what he's working on with the developments in Keystroke. Today I don't have a lot of slides here, but we're going to talk about department, category, and location databases. And as you're setting up a new customer, it's good to start with department, category, and location. They are used for grouping or summarizing data in Keystroke, whereas fields on the inventory record like description, product code, class, those are used for looking up or listing inventory items. And that's really, I'll drive that home, I'll say that quite a few times today, but I want you to remember that department, category, location is for grouping or summarizing. The inventory indexed fields, description, class, product code, manufacturer, stock number, those are used to look up or list. It's good to start with department, category, and location because as you add inventory records, you're going to want to assign these grouping or summarizing fields. And how they're really utilized is when you run reports, you can get one line for each department or category or location, so the information is summarized. Or you can say, hey, I only want to see what books I sold, so I can run a report for just the department database. They're grouped. So you want to do that. The three different databases, and I'm going to go ahead and switch to Keystroke. Here we are, and here's the department database. You have department, category, and location. One thing I think is real important is that with departments especially, you want to maybe keep it to a page full or less, and I like keeping it to 5, 10, 15, because then you can run a report like a sales report, and it lists everything on one page for what you sold, and then you can run a purchase report and it lists everything on one page for what you purchased. If you have questions, you can go dig deeper. If you have 200 departments, you're losing some of that summary of the data that you have in Keystroke. So with department, and here's just a look at a department screen, you have a code and a name. Back in the cash register days, departments were always department 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or 001, 002, 003. You can use those if retailers are used to that, but it's also an alphanumeric field, so you can use things like DVD, CLO for clothing, CIG for cigarette, book for books. So they can be descriptive and understanding. So you have a code and a name. Also, with each of these, department, category, and location, you can attach a script. What that does is for every item in that department, it will run a specific script. What do I have here on books? Well, I highlight, it's running the script that's attached to inventory item number 84. So if I hit insert here, pulls up my list, hit F3 to edit that. So this is just a inventory I added that's no price, but it adds a free bookmark with each book purchased. If I look at scripts here, it adds this tag-along item that's a bookmark. So you can automatically run a script. You could run a script to collect information. You could run a script like how we originally added scripts was for people that did photo mugs. And so they had a department and they had all their different mugs in there, and then this script would run. Do you want a picture on it? Do you want words on it? And that would follow for everything in that department. It's a very handy feature. I'm just going to hit escape to get out of there. And then, you know, I could put a note in here about the script that's something like add bookmark. There is a minimum age. So here for like cigarettes, the minimum age is 18. So every item in that department, it will check the age. Now I also, and I'm just here in the database manager, I hit F3 to pull up my list of departments. I also have a liquor department, and I'm just going to highlight it and hit enter. And the liquor department, the minimum age is 21. Keystroke will know the age you entered. So if somebody comes in and buys cigarettes and you scan their driver's license and then they go to buy liquor, well, it's going to say, okay, what was the age on that driver's license, and they're allowed to buy it. If their age came out as 19, it won't let them buy liquor. The other thing is if they buy liquor and you scan it and it's okay, and then they buy cigarettes, it's going to not ask for it again. It's already checked it and knows that they're over 21, so they're also over 18. So that's the way you handle that. It can be used for tobacco products, alcohol, guns, whatever else you're doing there. There's a few other fields here, the target profit margin, and this feature was originally designed for what we call craft malls, that where it was kind of one big store and they had a bunch of kiosks or tables where people would sell certain crafts, and then they might get crafts from 20 different vendors, come up to the front and buy them all. Well, this way you can say, okay, for these items the cost is $0, the selling price is $10, but my target profit margin is 50%, and so it will figure in the cost on that $10 item as $5 so that you're making a 50% profit margin. So that way, even though you don't know the cost of everything, it will figure in a cost. You can also do it for labor and other things that may have more of a fluctuating cost or you want a general cost for, but it will back calculate the cost on items that are marked with $0 for that. And then security levels to view. You may want to hide certain departments from some of your clerks, so you can say, hey, and only clerks of security level 1, 0 or 1 can see this department. And that was also added with this non-sale, which basically means items sold in that department get taken out of your sales for things like lottery tickets, items that are just kind of pass-through expense and you don't really want to consider as part of your sale. You can have a non-sale, or sometimes it's called hash department. So this is the department main screen. And then if I go and look at category, category looks very similar to department. It's got everything except that non-sale. You can only do that with departments. And location is basically the same thing again without that non-sale. There is a custom screen that's basically, we've added some of these information fields. We don't use them for a whole lot, but you may have some reason for flagging extra information on a department because you want it to print on a report or output it to a outside program, and you can put information in here. Going to go back to the main screen. Now with department, category, and location, you've got 3 levels of grouping or summarizing, as I've said. And you can use those, so you can use the department for your 5 biggest things. Say if it's a liquor store, maybe they have beer, wine, liquor, mixers, food items, tobacco. So they maybe have those 6 departments. And then category they might use as a sub-department. So they might have domestic and imported beer. They might have French wine, Italian wine, California wine, Australian wine. And then they might have whiskey, scotch, or whiskey, vodka, rum for the liquors. Then location could even be a sub-department. So you might have wine as the department, French wine as the category, and then location could be Burgundy, Alsace, different regions of France. So in other words, you've got kind of a structure set up where you're drilling down further and further with each of these grouping or summarizing fields. They can also be used as cross-references. So like in the example of say a sporting goods store, you might have clothing, sports equipment, shoes, accessories, and then you might have categories that would be Nike, Reebok, Adidas, and you have sports equipment, you have shoes, you have accessories, you have clothing that's all Nike, but that allows you to run a sales report and see, here are all the shoes I sold, and then here are all the Nike branded items I sold. And you can mix and match that with the 3 levels. We've called it department, category, and location. That's kind of the names we've given it, but you can think of it other ways too. We used to call category sub-department, but because it wasn't always a sub-department, we changed it from sub-department to category. And then we added location, which can be a physical location in the store, but you could also use it as another level of summarizing or another cross-reference. So that is what department, category, and location is all about. Now, the department, I'm going to go back to the department database. There's a couple of special things about department. One is you can use this non-sailor hash, which basically just removes it from your sales so you don't really see it. It's kind of passed through, like I was saying, like lottery tickets, or if you sell fishing licenses, things like that. The other thing with department is you can post to the general ledger of accounting software by department. And if I go to my custom menu, an accounting link, under setup here, I can select inventory departments. And here you see, and actually, I'll cancel out of here first. If I look at posting accounts, I've got my sales subtotal going to sales income. I've got my cost of goods sold going to the account COGS. This would be for something like QuickBooks, where you can use account names rather than account numbers. But I can get more specific. And then in inventory departments, I can say, well, I want books, clothing, and service to go to these different accounts in my general ledger. I want books and clothing to go to these different accounts, but service is just going to go to my COGS default account. So if they're blank, they just go to the default account. But this lets you post, you could do, labor to one account, shoe sales to one account, sports equipment to one account. You could divide it up so that you get a little more detail in your general ledger. You're not getting item by item detail in the general ledger, but it lets you break that up without having to go back to your accounting software and say, oh, here were these different sales, if you want to look at it in a little more detail there. So it's a very handy feature. We use it. It works real well for us. The other thing I want to show you, and if I go to the report manager, this is where I can run an inventory sales analysis report. And I am just going to select my first grouping to none, and my second grouping I am going to set to department. And then I'm going to summarize. Remember, use department, category, and location. So I could group by department, category, or location. I use that to group or summarize. So I'm going to select department. I'm going to summarize. And I am going to go ahead and run this report. Get some information up here. And here you see I've got a report. It's and let me, one page, easy to look at. My format's a little fried there on this machine, but I've got this one report. I can run it. I can run a purchase report to be its complement. And let me close that. So it's quick and easy to run those reports. That was summarized. I can also say, hey, I just want a report for the book group and get my sales for the book group. I am going to go back to the database manager, department, and so here's my list of departments. Again, I could do them numerically if I want, but I can also do game, gift, that kind of thing. If we look at my category list, so category, I've got things like accounting software, computer games, and then for books, I have children's books, computer magazines. So my category is kind of a sub-department. And again, it's good to, if you're setting up a new customer, setting up their databases, to get these departments, categories, locations entered, and then enter the inventory items. And sometimes it's good to just do a few departments, a few inventory items, make some sample sales, run some sample reports, so you get a feel for how it's all working. Because I do talk to some end users that are like, oh gosh, yeah, I could use it for this, I could use it for that. And sometimes you got to get a little creative on how you're getting it all set up so it best fits a customer's needs. And that, in a nutshell, is the department, category, and location databases. Are there any questions? Hopefully everybody heard me. I will switch back to my PowerPoint. Remember, next week we're going to talk about the inventory database, Thursday, 9 a.m. Mountain. Thanks all for attending. Be sure you can always email or call if you have any questions, and we will see you next week.